scripture notes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 1 to 9.
Give me a minute.
You can't say it from memory?
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. That's my fault.
I don't even know my name. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry, and they began to pluck
Yeah, but
heads
this
of
is
grain
up.
and to eat.
Oops, wrong one.
Let's get there.
One more time.
Oh, we can just read the whole Gospel of Matthew. Yeah,
Try that.
There it is.
that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there. And while the whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen."
Listen. No, I mean, I'm not telling you to listen to me. That's just what the text says. Listen. Twice, Jesus began to teach them, and he said, "Listen." Then Jesus ended the story, and he said, "Anyone with ears to hear, listen. Listen." That's what we're supposed to do. Listen. I assume we're supposed to listen and understand. Listen. I hope you hear in this story, amongst many things, but I hope you hear that God is an extravagant and generous God. Somebody said to me on the way out after the first service, "Well, I think if I was that sower, I wouldn't have planted seeds in the wrong place." That's the point. God is extravagant, willing to throw seed around all over the place. Several questions about this text. A sower went out to sow. What, my friends, was the sower sowing? What were the seeds? What were they? What was the sower sowing? It doesn't tell us. We can interpret it. Perhaps faith, perhaps love. Those are my favorite two. But what was the sower sowing? Interesting story. The sower went out to sow, planting some sort of seed. We don't know what. I always think of wheat. Didn't have to be wheat. The sower went out and planted seed. Some of it fell on the path, didn't grow at all. Some of it fell where it was rocky. It sprang up very quickly, but then it withered away because there wasn't any root system. Some grew up among the thorns, but the thorns overtook the seed, the plant from the seed. But some fell on good soil. And according to Matthew, produced 100 times, 60 times, and 30 times. A sower went out to sow. Now let me ask you, as you listen to this story, I have a poll to take this morning. And I'm going to tell you what the choices are, and then we'll vote, okay? And the poll is this. I'm going to ask you, first of all, how many of you here want to be a failure? And then I'm going to ask, the second question is, how many of you want to be a success? Okay, now let's take this poll. Let's vote. How many here want to be a failure? Raise your hand. How many here want to be a success? figured that's the way the boat would go. Huh. So, what is a failure? What is a success? And how do you know the difference? I mean, all of you voted and said that you wanted to be a success. I'm not going to ask if you are. I happen to know you are. But how do you know you're a success? I mean, in our society, in our culture, in our understanding, we push success pretty big. You're supposed to be successful. You're supposed to be a winner. You're supposed to be on top. At least do your best. We like success. Thank goodness we're not professional baseball players. I mean, if you're a successful hitter on a baseball team, when you hit 100%?
Yes.
Yeah. Or you'd think you'd hit at least 800, wouldn't you? Has anybody ever batted 500 in professional baseball? Somebody at 8:30 finally gave me a no. Okay, thank you. Not for a whole season. Okay. So, a pretty good batting average is, now, of course, if I was playing baseball, I would think I was a success if I hit one, if I was playing professional baseball. But I really have a notion that I would have a hit if I played, only it would be me getting hit. So, what's a successful baseball hitter? I mean, 250? 300? Well, 300 is not too bad, is it? No? Pretty good? Yeah. So we're saying that if you get 3 out of 10, you're doing okay. Well, what kind of message is that? I mean, good grief. Be honest, when you hear this story, a sower went out to sow, you think, oh, failure, failure, failure. Ah, finally, success. This is a wonderful story because it's about 3 failures and 1 success. Well, what is success? What is a failure? My son was telling me about a marathon. And I need Joel here to hear this, but you'll have to tell him about it, okay? But because Joel's getting ready to run the Chicago Marathon. Yeah, awesome. Training, all right, good. I was telling people earlier, I trained for a marathon 4 different times. I got so sick each time I finally said, you know, John, I don't think this is going to happen. Okay, so I ran a 10-miler once, back when I used to run. Nobody can believe I could run. Well, I wasn't really running, but I was shuffling my feet pretty quickly. My son found this article, I think he found it online, it's from Esquire magazine, and it's about marathons. Just let me read a little bit to you. For most of us, the 26.2 miles of a marathon represent the epitome of athletic endurance. For others, there are ultra marathons. Races that stretch to 50 or 100 miles or more through some of the world's most inhospitable regions. The Badwater 135 winds through the middle of Death Valley in July. The Marathon de Sable is a 6-day, 156-mile race across the Sahara Desert. The Hard Rock 100 is a high-altitude 100-miler amid lightning storm and avalanches. And they talked about another race in here in the article somewhere. I didn't find it again, but it's a race in Colorado where you race across all the 1400s in one race. But then there is what is known as the Barkley Marathon. Officially, it consists of 5 loops through Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee, totaling 100 miles, but most participants believe it's closer to 130. Runners must ascend and descend about 120,000 feet of elevation, the equivalent of climbing up and down Mount Everest twice. All this must be done in just 60 hours. At the time of the race this year, over 1,000 participants. Now, to me, that's amazing. 1,000 people signed up to do this. It cost $1.60 to join, but you also have to answer a bunch of esoteric questions. Over 1,000 people participated at the start of this year's race. 14 finished. Of this marathon, 5 loops, goes through this terrain up and down, like Mount Everest, up and down twice, through all sorts. There are no trails. It's just underbrush, woods. People are tripping and falling. One person said they think they fell 300 times on one loop. Sliding down sides of mountains, going over cliffs. When it gets foggy, you can't see anything. When's the race? The race is on the Saturday closest to April Fool's Day. Yeah, that ought to tell you something right there. All the terrain looks the same. You have to make the circuit 5 times. You get to see the map an hour before the race that's taped to a picnic table. No GPS, no nothing. There are some instructions. You're supposed to turn left at this little outcropping of rocks on the top of that 3rd hill past the and you're assigned a number. And on each of the 5 loops, you have to find 13 books and tear the page number that's your number out of the book and bring it back. 5 times. Now some people say if you go around twice, that's a fun run. The 3rd loop gets a little more difficult. Most people don't even get to the 4th circuit. And to finish under 60 hours and do it 5 times, well, 14 people out of over 1,000 have finished. This year, 1 more finished. So now it's 15. Well, actually, another guy finished, but he came in from the wrong direction, so he was disqualified. Why? Why? If we are so intent on being successful, if we're so intent on being right, on being good, why would anybody voluntarily sign up for this Barkley Marathon knowing that the likelihood of finishing was less than 15 out of 1,000? Why? Now, all of you said you wanted to be a success. So we wouldn't sign up for this Barkley Marathon, right? Oh, I know I wouldn't. The guy who invented it, he made 2 circuits one year. And he's a runner. He's run clear across Tennessee 3 times. What's a failure? What's a success? I mean, in my books, if somebody even signs up for the Barkley Marathon and starts, they're a success, at least over me. If they complete 1 loop, wow, 2, wow, 3, wow, 4, what's the matter with you? 5, whoa! But we want to be successful. That's what we're supposed to be about. Now, honestly, almost every commentary I read about this story says that the point of the story is, if you're good soil, you're going to produce an extravagant harvest. Well, maybe. What is this tremendous harvest? Out of one seed comes a stalk. Out of one seed comes a stalk. And I tend to think of wheat. And I asked some of our farmers this morning, how many grains of wheat are on one stalk? And nobody stopped to pick one out and count it. I mean, all these years of combining wheat, nobody's picked one out and counted how many grains are on a stalk of wheat. Can you imagine that? But from what I've read, 100 is not completely out of line. Now, there happens to be a little cornfield right next to us. One little grain of corn stalk. How many grains of corn are on each stalk? So we say, wow, what a harvest! 100 times, 60 times, 30 times. And maybe it's just a pretty decent harvest. But even a pretty decent harvest, 1 out of 4. In some ways, I hear this story as good news. There's nothing in the story that's condemning, judgmental, or evaluating. It just says, a sower went out to sow. Some seed didn't grow. Some seed grew for a while. Some seed was overtaken by thorns. Some seed produced a decent harvest. So how does this story help us with the living of our lives? How does this story help us with being God's people? Quite a little bit. There's an old Buddha story that really comes from the Tao tradition. There was a farmer who was a pretty good farmer in a small village over in Europe somewhere. And one day, his horse ran away. The villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, what terrible fortune, your horse ran away. Now what are you going to do? I mean, that's just terrible luck, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe. We'll see." The next day, the horse came back with 3 other horses. The villagers came back to the farmer and said, "Wow, what good luck you have." The farmer said, "Maybe. We'll see." The next day, the farmer's son went out to ride one of the new horses. The horse was unbroken, threw him off, and he broke his leg. The villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, what terrible luck, what terrible misfortune." And the farmer said, "Maybe. We'll see." The next day, the army came through the little village, finding recruits, quote-unquote recruits, for the army. But they didn't take his son because his son had a broken leg. The villagers came to the farmer and said, "Wow, what good luck, what good fortune." And the farmer said, "Maybe. We'll see." A sower went out to sow. Some of the seed didn't sprout at all. Some sprouted and died. Some was overtaken by weeds. And some produced a decent harvest. How do we know if what we're doing is a failure or success? I don't know about you, but sometimes when I've done what I consider absolutely everything wrong, something turns out beautifully. Yeah, it happens. Thank goodness. Other times, when I've done what I thought was absolutely everything exactly right, I perceive it as a complete disaster. How do we know? When we're living and trying to find the ways of God, if we're a success or a failure. I have a hunch that since you voted you wanted to be a success, that most of us would really like to be that good soil. You know, I mean, let other folks be that bad stuff. We'll be the good soil and produce a harvest. I mean, I want to be there. But when we say that that's what the story means, and forget the other three examples, which really, 3 to 1, I mean, the failure far outweighs the success in this story. You just have to admit, it really does. I don't care how overwhelming the harvest was. 3 out of 4. Now, if I could bat that well in the professional baseball leagues, I'm okay. Somebody said afterwards, yeah, but if somebody plays the piano and they only hit 3 out of 4 notes correctly, well, I would say I was a great success because I can't play at all. At the same time, the crux of our good news from God through Jesus Christ by means of the Holy Spirit is that if we die to self, if we're willing to take up our cross, if we're willing to join Jesus in being crucified, and no matter how you want to paint the picture, or how pretty the cross is around your neck, being crucified is not typically considered a success. Die to self, pick up your cross, join Jesus in being crucified. It's only then that we are born anew, that we are resurrected, that we enter fullness of life. So it seemed to me the Christian message is it's really better to be one of the 3 failures than to be the good soil. Maybe. We'll see. But could it be that at the very least, we might ease up on ourselves about how successful we are? Could it be that we could ease up on each other and on people in our lives and even about folks in the world about how successful they are? And could it be that we could say, as individuals, as a community of faith, we're going to be okay if we do it right once out of every 4 attempts? That really grates against us. We are supposed to do it right. We're supposed to be a success. And yet the reality is, in our own lives, there are times when there ain't nothing brewing. There are times when we get all pumped up about something and boom, that was the worst idea I ever had. And there are other times when life is so overwhelming we feel like we're being choked out. And honestly, every once in a while, a nice little harvest is at hand. Romans 8:38 and 39. Paul writes, "For I am convinced that nothing, no thing, neither failure nor success, neither death nor life, nor things present nor things to come, nor powers nor principalities, nor rulers, nothing, no thing, not even ourselves, can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus, our Lord." Maybe, just maybe, simply living the best we can is okay. So we end where we started. Listen. Listen. A sower went out to sow. Listen.